Hello everyone and welcome to our Game Week 3 preview show. I'm Chris and Kieran is here too. How are you today, Keek?
Yeah, well, good, thank you. How are you?
Good, yeah, I'm good. I've been tinkering a lot as we head into Game Week 3 and I'm sure you have too. The fixtures feel like they're changing a little bit and yeah, with United underperforming, there's a lot to consider. How are you doing with that 3 Arsenal? Are you tinkering as well?
No changes made yet, but
Yeah.
things to be done. I've missed some rises and stuff, but is what it is.
Tell me about it. It seems like loads of people went up last night, so yeah, we'll get into that. So just quickly, for people watching the stream or people watching after the fact, if you're new, hi, thanks for joining us. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll get to as many as possible. If you haven't subscribed to us yet, Kieran and I doing our weekly shows again this season, and we would love to hit 5,000 subs. So yeah, hopefully you can join us and interact. So let's jump straight into the points and how we ended up. I'll start, I suppose, because we had quite similar scores. 45 points. Most of the points were coming from the Brighton players. Stupinan got 11, Matoma with 12. Watkins had a jammy assist, sort of, to get 5. He won a penalty. And I think that was pretty much my only 3 returns. Captain Armband on Haaland, who obviously disappointed me and millions of others. So, pretty meh game week really. Turner and Johnson made no difference in the end. Both scored 2.
Yeah, true. I fortunately have Flecken in goal. Went for that right decision in the end, thank God. I was obviously worried with how well Sheffield United seemed to be playing. They didn't really do much on the Friday. Thought that looked like a clean sheet for sure. But yeah, a really nice goal in the end, thank God. And then the Estepinian return, and I was on something like 25 points before the Arsenal game, and I managed to get the Odegaard penalty, which is obviously maybe not nailed on or anything like that. So yeah, just glad he sort of stepped up. Obviously, Saka, if it wasn't him, I would have still got points, but.
It was probably better for your overall rank that Odegaard had it because
yes, exactly. So yeah, just a week to forget. Pedro, I didn't really see the benching coming. I just generally thought he was going to be just nailed on and just part of the team rotation will just stay in there, but guess not. And then him obviously getting 0, blocking Udoji's points. I backed the triple up for United instead of because I had 2 attackers against Udoji. And then I thought I may as well have Shaw in there to back the triple up than just put Udoji against 2 of my attackers. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
So, obviously I wanted the United attackers to score, which would have meant Udoji didn't get points. So, I would have done it the same like every other time, I think, as well. So
it's not like something you regret there, is it?
No. But overall, I think like one of the worst starts I've had in like the past like 6-7 years. About 2.7 million I think overall at the moment, which is fine, I guess. Stuff to work on, but it's kind of one of the first times I've sort of been working from quite far behind. So see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I'm similar. Well, I think I'm only maybe like 1 point in front of you overall, but it's like 600,000 odd places. And I had a look, and just because I was getting irritated about the Saliba thing, like I told you the other day, like if the swing from Gabriel to Saliba and my replacement for that is like 10 or 12 points, and that 10 or 12 points is at the moment like worth like 1.5 million now. So yeah, it's a bit of bullshit there really still. Okay, well we'll jump in and have a chat about all the different things. Shall we start with United because we've both got double up in attack, and we've also got Luke Shaw as well. We've basically got the same 3 players, and they've obviously massively underperformed. I don't know if you heard as well, but they had a closed door friendly today against Burnley to prep a little bit because Burnley had a game and they lost apparently 3-0. I know it was like I heard it was the reserve
United
team.
Lost 3-0.
Yeah, United lost 3-0.
Okay, it was reserves, right.
I heard that it was like mostly reserve team, but Martial started. Apparently that's like the only main first teamer, and just I don't know, it feels like there was so much positivity going into the season. They had a good pre-season, those 2 good games in game weeks 1 and 3. They barely won against Wolves, God knows how, and obviously looked like after the first sort of half an hour from the highlights, they got comfortably beaten in the second half by Spurs. So I suppose just before we dive into any stats and chat about it like that, what were your initial reaction to Bruno and Rashford in that game, I suppose?
Well, they looked good. I mean, obviously no FPL points blanks, but they should have got points. Bruno could have had a massive haul. Yeah, he obviously went through for that header. Should have scored. Obviously, Rashford should have scored. He was just offside, but he should have scored from a Bruno assist. I think Casemiro hit the bar off a Bruno assist. So there's all those things where Bruno looks like he should be getting hauls, and obviously the next fixture looks good for it. So for me, I feel like Rashford is more of the one I'd want to remove. But it's a classic case of sort of selling before a plum fixture. Like I've done that before, and it's backfired quite badly at times. So, but at the same time, Rashford is not looking particularly good or in form. So it's a really tough one this week, though.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I think you're right. I feel like both their expected points has been decent. They both, I think, have I think Bruno has 10.8 expected points and Rashford has something like 10.2. So the fact that they woefully underperform that does make you think that surely they can get it on track. But the longer they take up that budget in our teams, and I don't know, a multitude of players who cost less than them are overperforming them, it is a worry. And I think just United in general, you're right. I feel like the XG is there. So they're the second worst underperformance of teams in the first two games for XG to goals. They've had an XG of 3.5 and only scored 1. So they're missing sort of an extra 2.5 goals. And they did have, you're right, they had some good chances there in that Spurs game. And perhaps if we weren't talking about Rashford or Bruno's misses, we'd both be a lot happier this week, and there'd be absolutely no issue with selling them. So I think it's probably just compounded for the fact those chances were so good. Their fixtures are a little bit mixed, I suppose. So after Forest, they've got the Arsenal away game, got Brighton at home, which is going to be a difficult game now, especially from a clean sheet point of view. They've got Burnley away, which, to be honest, are still a bit of an unknown because they've only had that one game, and then Crystal Palace, who again are going to park the bus. So two of them sort of home fixtures in the next 5 are going against teams that sit like this classic low block everyone always mentions. They're going to be hard to break down, which, as we saw against Wolves, at the moment they're not in the mode to break down. So I feel like the team needs to change as well. I think and perhaps Rash needs to move back to the left.
Agree. Obviously Mount has been injured, has been revealed, so he's not going to play. So there is going to be some sort of switch up, which I think is obviously needed. Sancho definitely should come in, and they did look better when he came on against Spurs, in my opinion anyway. And get Rashford on the left, Sancho as false 9. Possibly Eriksen / McTominay in there just to help Casemiro a bit. Let Bruno go forward. And they should be okay, but it's just they had a really bad start to the season last year, right? They lost 2 in a row. So, and then they started to perform. Rashford had the same thing. He blanked the first 2 games, and then started to come good. I think he got a 13-pointer in game week 3. So there is that could happen. But again, it's a low block team who are probably going to try and frustrate them. If it's 0-0 by half time, you're going to be worried again. So, are you thinking of selling? Or
Well, I'm thinking of definitely not both, but even though the fixture is so plumb, I kind of look at Forest and I agree. I feel like from looking at their numbers the first 2 game weeks, they only conceded 0.84 XG against Arsenal, 0.55 against Sheffield United. So both quite low, under 1 obviously. Arsenal scored a world of goal in the first game Saka did. I don't know, I just feel that United are not best positioned at the moment to really sort of score a lot of goals, basically, and the double up is probably too much to have for them. So I probably, despite the fact that Bruno's expected points is a little bit higher, I do think I prefer Rashford. So he betters Bruno for expected points very slightly.
Really interesting.
Yeah, maybe it's by 0.6 or something, so it's tiny. It's 10.8 to 10.6, but he's had 7 shots in the box, which is double Bruno, and 2 big chances, which is double Bruno too. So, and 15 penalty box touches. I mean, we know that Bruno is sort of more of a creative midfielder than Rashford being an out-and-out striker, but FPL doesn't think that. FPL just puts them both as midfielders. So Rashford's 15 penalty box touches are only betted by 4 players so far this season. Bruno only has 6. So I kind of think, looking at that, although that Bruno is passing the eye test like he did at the end of last season, like his numbers aren't really there yet on Rashford's level in terms of sort of like clinical finishing. And if you look at someone like Wembo, who we'll talk about a little bit later, he is obviously, he's got penalties in his locker. He's got more. He still classes as a midfielder like Bruno, but he's got like such a better lot of stats. Nearly top for shots in the box. He's in the top 5, which Bruno's not in for. And I don't know. I think that the money you could save on Bruno to perhaps move to a different midfielder or a different striker down the line is probably beneficial. It just seems a lot of money at the moment to invest in double United attack when they're not.
See, I think I prefer Bruno just because he's more involved in everything.
Yeah. I can see that argument
if he's
too.
going to be assisting, is it going to be to Rashford? But at the same time, again, like if Rashford, they're going to change it up. Is Rashford going to go for the left? Is he going to get as many chances? I don't know.
I think Bruno's got more routes to points with his corners, his free kick potential, and his penalties. Don't get me wrong, but from general open play, Rashford is a very small sample size. Rashford's looking better. I don't know. I know.
Yeah, tough.
I'm minded to leave it another week. What about Shaw? Should we just talk about him briefly before moving on from United? Just so at the moment, I'd say he's not proving it as good value for us as Anana, who's obviously 0.5 more expensive. United conceding savable shots, which is obviously beneficial to him. That said, he's had 6 key passes, 1 big chance created, so it could have been a different story if Bruno had scored at the weekend.
Yeah, that was from a sure assist, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's in the top 10 for touches in the box and entries in the box of all defenders. So from attacking wise, it's the promising signs are there, but it's just whether they'll have many clean sheet games in the next 5 when you look at a team like City, for instance, who've maybe got 3 or 4.
For me, he's surviving this week just because there's other things to do.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm using 2 free transfers this week, he will be a transfer out next week probably to a City defender or just someone else.
Right.
Just because I don't want him against Arsenal and Burnley and Brighton. Really. So I think there's definitely better value out there. And there's plenty of good defences. So,
I think
and fixture swings, etc.
Yeah, I kind of think my defence now after I made that game with 1 transfer to get Chilwell in, I just kind of don't want to waste any more transfers messing around with the defenders. It just seems like there's such low upside at the minute, to be honest, when I don't know, dealing with more priority potential problem like Bruno and Rash seems a bit of a way to do it. Anyway, should we talk about City, move on to them, and come back to United when we talk about our teams maybe?
Yeah, so obviously 5 really good fixtures next up. Sheffield United away, which obviously is good. Fulham at home, West Ham away, Forest at home, and then Wolves away. So 5 great ones. So double ups, triple ups, possibly. Obviously, it's difficult with knowing who to target.
Yeah.
But the defense. So 2 games so far. Obviously, 0.4 XGC, expected goals conceded, which is by far the best in the league. 0 goals conceded. They've only faced 13 shots and they've given up 0 big chances at the time as well. Wow. So Ederson is usually a fantasy troll, as we've mentioned, but like I did say as well that they're pretty good and tight at the start of the season, and that has come to fruition. And obviously, if we didn't get this stupid leak, we would have had Stones, but obviously he was injured, so it was good to get rid of him. But we didn't get onto another City defender, and that has ruined our days a little bit. So, but which defenders to pick if you're not going for an Ederson? Stones is out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow,
right?
okay.
Akanji at 5.1 million now. He's risen once, 7.6%. So he's definitely a differential. And then there's Walker at 5 million at 6.3% owned as well. And they've both played 180 minutes so far.
Right. Okay.
Both have next to nothing on goal threat on the stats though. So there isn't much assist potential either, it seems like. So the ceiling for them is probably 6 points, clean sheet or bust at the moment. Then Gvardiol at 5 million is obviously good value. He looks like he's starting to come into the team and probably going to nail down his place. I think he's
You'd think so.
Yeah, I think so. And then there's Diaz, obviously, who seems to be the the right-centered centre back, I think it is, who should be playing most games. And obviously, he's had a sketchy start to the season because of concussion, but he's got goal threat from set pieces. Gvardiol should do too as well, I think. So, at the moment, I think it's probably a back four most weeks of Walker, Diaz, Gvardiol, and Akanji, maybe. Then that sort of that left side is up for sort of grabs. I suppose the left back, Akanji, Ake / Lewis can all play there. So, but as I said in the last show, that Akanji has had the most minutes of all the City's defenders last season. He's played 180 minutes so far as well this season. So it's hard with Gvardiol coming in. It feels like he should be taking Akanji's spot. Yeah. But at the same time, like Akanji just seems to keep playing all the time. So I don't know. With those stats of defense, I feel like you should own one, but because their attacking metrics as a team is like mid-table at the moment.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah,
but then their defense is just so good, and we're all looking at Foden's and Alvarez's, but then the defense is being passed on a bit.
No, I kind of it is annoying. I mean, I was put off Akanji, like from last season end of it. He was absolutely awful in my team. Like he didn't start, and they didn't get a clean sheet. But we kind of we backed it this season with Stones, and since then having nothing and seeing Akanji and Walker like you say, these 6-point ceiling max players, and maybe like an occasional point for a bonus here and there, rack up back-to-back clean sheets. And you're right, those fixtures are plumb for clean sheets. Sheffield United, Fulham, maybe not. West Ham would be the only one I'd say maybe not to in the next 5, and then Nottingham Forest and Wolves away. I mean, it's difficult. Like I said, I don't want to make defensive transfers really, so I don't think I'll get any of them, and I'll just juggle around the crud I've got at the minute. And
but obviously in 2 weeks' time after Sheffield United and Fulham, the rotation for Europe starts. So
true.
There's that to contend with for the defense, and the defense is one of the scarier places for that as well. That's why most of us don't have one.
Exactly.
So there is that to contend with. I think Diaz should be safe. I think he didn't start most of them, or quite a few at the end of last season because he was still injured a bit. So I don't know. It's tough. So
you make an interesting point about the attack though, because I picked up on those stats as well. That they've definitely not been as good.
I don't know. Like they've had, who did they even play? Who were their first fixtures? It was Newcastle and Burnley. Yeah, that's probably been part of why it's not been as good. But then Haaland did have a good few chances in that game that just sort of went by the post. Probably low XG chances. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. They are still the best team. Foden, Twitter and everyone seems to be going mad about Foden at the moment. I'm getting a bit swept up in the hype. He was good for me last season with a couple hat tricks and big hauls. I think as many are saying, if you're going to go for Foden or Alvarez, I think now is the time to get them. If you wait a little bit, then their sort of rotation risk is probably going to get further or more muddy. So I think the next 2, they should both be good to go. But I think it's after that then when Doku's the new signing is just sort of bedded in a bit and is going to start to get minutes. Bernardo is going to be back from injury. So I think now is the time if you're going to do it. And I am certainly tempted. Like I would love to sell Rashford to a Foden. But it's just, I could see Foden going off this week. I'd be so tempted, and I can see him just getting a hat trick this week.
Really?
I think, it's just those games that you think that Haaland's going to haul, and it's just like Foden that pops up in the spaces and just gets those big hauls. But anyway, so he's had an average of 6 points so far over the first 2 games. Played the full 180 minutes, which is
rare, isn't it?
The Super Cup for him. So he's had all 3 games 180 minutes. XG of 0.63 and an XA of 0.81. So that's
pretty good. Yeah.
6 shots, 9 key passes, 1 big chance created, and 1 big chance for himself. He's had 133 touches, which is third to only Kovacic and Rodri in the City mids, and 9 touches in the box, which is second to only Haaland. Alvarez, by comparison, has only 98 touches compared to Foden's 133. And he's had 7 touches in the box, 4 shots with a lower XG and a lower XA of Foden. So I think out of the two of them, I think I would lean towards Foden, but it sort of depends on team structure. My team structure does sort of lean towards getting an Alvarez rather because I have that Pedro slot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's still awkward because I don't have enough money in the bank to get straight from Pedro to a Alvarez or a Jackson or whatever. So I have to sell someone in order to do that. Bernardo was out last week, which did mean obviously Foden and Alvarez had to start, but I feel like they're sort of nailed on for the next two. Nailed on obviously with a caveat of just being Pep, but I think it's now is the time to target them if you want to go there.
My question for you on them, like, which is why I'm always against doubling up on like a City attacker or even getting a defender, is just because of the rotation. So like, like we discussed earlier, like I got Foden last season after his, I don't know, it was almost like back-to-back hat trick or something. He did something crazy, didn't he? And
it was a hat trick, and then I think it was a goal and 2 assists or something.
So when I missed that, and then I got him for the next week, and I think in the lead up to Christmas he was maybe like benched in the next 2 or 3 games, and it was awful. And I don't know, even though he can go mega crazy, or any City player can, for me, I just can't. I just think it's such a waste of money to invest in someone that is not a sure starter, and I don't know why I've got that in my brain that's like more important than the points. Do you see what I mean? I'm just like thinking he might play. So the fixtures are great, and maybe he starts against Sheffield United and maybe he scores. But then what if he's like benched in the next 3 games and comes on, because that can just happen. And I don't know, maybe picking like a safer pick like Nwembo, who maybe won't haul in all of or like one of the games, might just tick along, and you know he's going to be a first choice starter in that front three from a decent mid-table side. So that's my only hang up with Foden. I do like him, and I think it looks like he started the season well, but I hate the rotation fear.
I'm just not fearing that, at least for the next 2 personally.
Right.
I feel like he should start them.
He should.
And then you could just get rid of him again. It's about catching the hauls when they look like they're on the cusp, and Foden looks like that at the moment. So I'd be really annoyed. Not annoyed, but I would be. I would be annoyed. But I'm thinking about it so much. If I didn't go for it, you just know he's gonna haul. There's options there. Like Harry in the chat has gone for Foden and Alvarez.
I love that.
Our friend George has got Foden and Alvarez in as well, so he's got both. He's got the triple up on City attack is crazy at normal times, but maybe at the moment it's not so bad. They've lost Mahrez, their KDB, whoever the other one was, Gundogan. So they've
lost
for those two to play. So
absolutely, and Carlos in our chat as well, he's obviously banking on Sheffield United being crud, and we think they will be. So will we consider triple captain Haaland this week? Only 2 returns like he did against Burnley with a better team than Sheffield United. I mean, personally, I would try and save the triple captain for a double game week, but on paper, this is a good fixture to do it in an away game. Pep more than likely is going to pick a better team away from home, just because it should be on paper a harder fixture than the home one, and they can batter anyone on their day. So I don't mind it, but not for me personally.
I don't mind it either. Like, he could definitely haul, but just wait for a double game week personally. So
you're not thinking getting both Foden and Alvarez then in the double move, or do you think that's too many eggs in one basket with the City triple up?
I absolutely could. But I don't know. I think I'm possibly not that risky. But I just know if I get Foden, then probably Alvarez will haul. So I think, but Foden's stats and sort of touches and involvement do seem to be above Alvarez. So I think Foden is the better one.
Yeah. All right. I don't think I've got much more to say on City. Have you got, or should we jump onto another team with good fixtures? Because otherwise we're just going to be like spinning our heads at the own pep roulette for hours. Chelsea, now they're interesting to me. I obviously doubled up on their defence sort of accidentally by getting Chilwell and also having Colwill. Didn't impress me much against West Ham, dropping or I don't know, losing quite convincingly, I'd say, and they got bullied. And they've had like an okay performance against Liverpool, but still only they got 1 point from 2 games, and I would say on like history wise a winnable game against West Ham. and now they've got this good fixture run. Luton, Forest, Bournemouth, Villa, Fulham, Burnley. I mean, do you put priority on any of their players ahead, I don't know, of Brentford, City? I'm trying to think who else has got good fixture runs coming up, but Arsenal still okay?
Yeah, so I'm obviously looking at Jackson as I've got Pedro. As I said before, it's about getting onto players that have fixture swings, and I've put in my notes here, like we'll bring in Brentford players, we'll bring in Newcastle, like Fulham, Palace, like players on fixture swings. So why are we not considering doing that for Chelsea when the fixtures are so good? It's Luton at home, Forest at home, Bournemouth away. Then they got, after Villa, they got Fulham and Burnley. Like, the fixtures are so good.
Oh yeah, they are good.
Like, why are we not attacking Chelsea just because like they've not looked great? But that doesn't matter because it's the fixtures are king in FPL. So, but Jackson 16% owned. Like his stats are still pretty good. Like 2 points in 2 of 2 yellow cards, which is not great, obviously. But 6 shots, which is a joint 4th of all strikers. 3 big chances, which is joint 1st.
Yeah.
0 key passes, not great. 0 big chances, great. So he's not getting much assist potential, but his XG of 1.14, and he's not had any penalties in there. That's good.
That's not bad, is it?
So yeah, numbers are okay to me. He's impressed in both games in flashes to me, but he's had little to no end product yet. But as I said, fixtures are king in FPL.
True.
Chelsea are usually good. Jackson looks like a good player. So for me, I'm certainly tempted. It's just like that Luton game looks so good. Like I can see him. Like he's failed twice. He probably knows he's not scored yet. He's just going to be ready and raring for goals. Broyer, I think, is back in training now, but he's not going to start for a while.
No.
So he's recovering still from his ACL. So yeah, for me, I like him. I don't see, or just like I have no problem with anyone that picks him because those fixtures are there for the taking. So
yeah, I mean, even before the end of game week 1, he was like firmly on my radar for game week 3 because Watkins starts a bit of a trickier run. He's got Burnley away and Fulham away, and then he at Villa play tonight, and he's starting in their Europa Conference League qualifier, and they play again next Wednesday. So they need to win those games to get. So Watkins is potentially going to have like 4 games in a week and a half, and when you look at obviously the weeks off Chelsea get, the fact that he has been picked to start both games, and you'd imagine he's going to start again. I don't think there's any threat of him being. I think it's at 16% ownership. I think it's like a nice gamble to take, and it to be honest, I would probably rather go for Jackson than I would go for Alvarez, because I would just expect him to start those next 5, and all of them look like games they could get a good result. I think the Forest game at home is difficult because I think they're still like, I don't know, I kind of feel like the mentality isn't that good at Chelsea yet, just because they haven't won yet this season. So if they get over the line and win against Luton, I kind of feel like they've got more confidence against Forest.
Yeah. I know you said in our group chat that you just don't trust him yet, but like, I don't know. I feel like that's fine. Like the fixtures, like did you trust a sort of like a Calvert-Lewin or someone like that when you would get them for fixture swings? Not. Like, would you trust like a Mitrovic or something? You get him for a fixture swing, like. Maybe not, but then that's what you get them for their fixture swings, and they're cheap and they're enablers to get you big points, and you just chuck them in for those fixtures and don't worry about it.
Yeah, no. To be honest, the longer the week's gone on, and I don't really see myself getting rid of Man United players. I'm looking at Watkins and thinking, he's got 2 rough fixtures, sort of like compounded by European fixtures.
But they're not rough fixtures, really.
No, well. I suppose the Burnley away game is an unknown, and you never know what could happen when you go to Anfield. But I suppose they're not awful. It's not like playing, I don't know, City away or Arsenal away, let's say. But they're not as good on paper as Luton and Forest at home, and then Bournemouth away for Chelsea.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's the flip side of it. I don't know. I like the idea of Jackson. It would be so much easier to say yes to this if he'd got like a return off any of those shots. That we wouldn't even have much of a question. We're like, right, Jackson's coming in for those fixtures. And I think it's weird because in my head, like, Watkins is 2 or points this season, or is assists, I should say, have been like quite fortuitous. He's had like one ball glance off his head against Newcastle, and Diaby scored like a nice volley.
Yeah.
And then he got fouled by Pickford. I mean, maybe, and the ball wouldn't even cross the line because someone cleared it off the line. So he probably he should have done better against Everton. So I look at him and think like he's been quite lucky to get 2 assists. He's 8 million. Players like Wissa, Alvarez have like done better than him for less money. Maybe I shouldn't be so in tune to holding him when Jackson's starting and he's got better fixtures. So yeah, he's a real strong consideration for me.
Do you have 2 free transfers or just one?
No, just one. Just one.
Yeah, that's a bit more of an awkward one as well.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. Don't hate it.
Okay, so staying on Chelsea, Gusto at 4 million. Yeah, James around out for about 4 weeks, I believe. So yeah, he's pretty short term if you are going for him, but probably good value on a wild card if you're trying to go there. If you need to save money, someone like I've looked at Shaw down to him as just a save a load of money again. But do I really need it if I don't own Salah? So yeah, that's an option. He's much less attacking than Chilwell. An XG of 0.01, XA of 0.01. Obviously, he's only played the 90. Well, I think it's about 120ish minutes. Yeah, only 1 shot, 0 big chances, 0 key passes, 0 big chances created. So outcome for me, I probably wouldn't bother at this time. But you know, there's got to be some clean sheets in there, surely, for these next 5 or 6. So yeah, Sterling looks really good. But still no end product. He's only had 1 shot in 2 games. Low XG, low XA numbers as well. So for me, still like a bit of an avoid. Like whereas with Jackson, who's the same price, his XG, his shots, his big chances are all good metrics, are all high. Whereas Sterling's is just not. Well, but he does sort of pass the eye test. Enzo, obviously, we did sort of think about who could take the next pen, and I've said Enzo should take it because he seems like a good ball striker and someone who'd be confident to take it. Obviously, he did in the end, and obviously missed very poor penalty in the end. So is he going to stay on them? Who knows? Jackson, maybe Chilwell should take the next. I think Jackson should take it just to get him off, get him some confidence as the striker. So for me, Chilwell obviously still great, still looking good, and yeah, I like Jackson as an option. But it's just if you've got the sort of money and the structure together. Yeah,
no, agree. I'm still not sold on their defensive capability, so I'm not sure I'm going to be playing both my Chelsea defensive assets. But yeah, I do. The more you've talked about Jackson, I am more interested in that. I think the team that are providing the most, and we'll talk about them now, the team for me that are providing the most like questions this week is Brentford, because you've obviously got Fleck in goals. You've already got like their defence covered for what is 3 nice home games and their next 4, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth and Everton, and you'd probably expect like a clean sheet in 1 or 2 of them.
So yeah,
you'd think, yeah, I think you'd think so against Crystal Palace and probably against Everton, maybe not Bournemouth, but they got obviously 1 clean sheet against Fulham, who looked dreadful. They played open team in Spurs and an awful team in Fulham, so it is interesting for me to see how they do. Like, what is somewhere in the middle of that, a tighter defensive unit in Palace. So they've had 9 big chances after their first 2 game weeks. That's the second highest. So, and they had 4, then 5. So it's not as if they just bumped up their numbers against Fulham. They were playing that well against Spurs. And an XGC, so that's expected goals conceded, of just 1.8 over 2 games. So that, you know, that's not bad as well. So I think their main assets for me and the main questions are: do I, with only 1 free transfer, and I suppose it's similar for you, is an attacking front, because I know you haven't got either of them. Who do we prioritise this week? Do we prioritise Brentford, who've got 3 good home fixtures and pretty nailed on attacking players in Wissa and Mwembo? Do we prioritise Chelsea, who've got good fixtures on paper, but the only real attacking option is Jackson, or City, and go double or even triple up on their good run of fixtures? So I think these are like the 3 key teams this weekend, and the reason why it's so difficult is just because like Man United assets are blocking half of these decisions with their good game no form, whereas most of these other players minus Jackson have got good form. So Wissa 6.1, he's basically doing what I thought Watkins would be doing. He's leading the line. He's had 9 shots in the box. That's the most of any player in the game so far. 2 big chances too, which is the second highest overall. He doesn't play like the full 90 in both games.
Yeah, that is a bit of an issue.
Like 70, I think, ish in each. So it's not even like he's just getting taken off a few minutes before the end. So that is a bit of an issue. But he's got great returns and he's got nice fixtures to come. I don't know what I suppose the main man otherwise to talk about Wembo. So 6.7 million now. I think he's obviously had a double price rise since the start of the season. He's got the pens. He's got set pieces. He's obviously getting the extra points for the goals. He's going to get extra points for these clean sheets in these games. Yeah. Perhaps his appeal inflated a little bit by those 2 penalty goals, and I suppose they're not going to be getting one every week, and he's got 2 back-to-back games, which is irritating for us as non-owners. But if you take away his pens, he's still inside the top 10 for all players for XG. So really interested in him. Just on this game this weekend, Palace only conceded 0.1 XG in their first away game, 1.1 XG in the second game against Arsenal. That takes away the penalty, and conceded no big chances against Arsenal, so minus the pen. So what I'm trying to cling to is, can I wait a week to get either of these guys, or are Palace going to be that bad?
Yeah, from what you say, that with Palace's XGC, then maybe we can wait. But Brentford have just looked that good.
Yeah.
Going forward, just attacking, aren't they? At the moment?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a pain point for me. The move that I'm talking about for Foden, like I could just go safe and get Mbeumo, but like he's not going to get a penalty every week.
No.
And yeah, he's not Ronaldo or something. He's not going to score. He's not a world-class player. Like he's not going to keep returning as he is. So yeah, I don't know. He's probably going to be my fantasy troll for the season, I imagine. Because like I could go safe with him, but I prefer the sort of upside of a Foden, just because I love the chase of like that big haul. Whereas I think you're a bit more conservative.
I am way more conservative.
But then I get more emotional, and I'll get really pissed off when Mbeumo scores and Foden blanks. But it's so hard to sell any of my mids. I can't be selling a Martinelli or an Odegaard before Fulham. So Mbeumo, for me, like you said, probably does have to wait at least a week, because if I go Foden this week, like I've still got 3 Arsenal mids. I can just sell one of them to get him next week for a Bournemouth at home, and that sounds good.
Yeah, that does. Yeah. Oh, it's difficult. It's really difficult. I don't want to take a hit because I'm really hit adverse as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Brentford. Anyway, should we? Tell you what. Do you want to talk a bit more in depth about Brighton and Pedro, and how much you probably hate Matoma now? And March, honestly, I can't believe March. I wish I'd gone back and told Summer Chris just to stick with March, man.
It's just these 6.5 million mids. They've killed me. Yeah. I avoided them on purpose because I wasn't sure which ones.
Yeah, to get. Now they're all doing amazing. Well.
And now, literally, and and I've just been stuck with 2 United attackers, 3 Arsenal attackers who've basically all done nothing as well. So a nightmare. But anyway, Brighton. So next fixture is West Ham United at home, Newcastle at home. So two decent enough, I guess. Newcastle's tough. Man United away, Bournemouth at home, Aston Villa away. So they're mixed, obviously. But an attacking perspective, I think, still looks pretty good to me. Obviously, West Ham looks good. Newcastle at home, I think, is usually full of goals. It was the last season. United away, I think they beat United at the start of last season. So I don't mind that either. United looked pretty poor defensively too. So I think there's still definitely good chance for goals for them. So as a team, their XG is 6.89, which is first, and that's the next closest is Brentford at 5.7. Obviously, they've got 2 penalties in there. There's been no penalties for Brighton, as far as it's João Pretos actually. But yeah, so that's well ahead. Compared to Man City, as we talked about earlier, Man City are mid-table at 3.32, and Brighton's was obviously 6.89, so they're doubling them pretty much. So 43 shots as a team, which is first of all teams, 11 big chances, which is first of all team, and then goals 8, which is first as well. But obviously they face Luton and Wolves. So caveat there of just 2 really bad teams. So for me, like Matoma, someone like that you can keep, no problem. Pedro, what to do with him? For me, I think he's obviously is an X minutes risk now. If you can make him sort of like your first bencher or your third striker, I think that's fine still, because he is going to start games. I think he probably will start this week. He probably will get returns, but you probably want someone who's just more reliable for starting games. Simple as that, really. So in game week 2, Pedro got 30 minutes. So he did his 30 40-ish minutes, including the extra times now. So that's not bad from the bench. He got most of a half, but he only got a 0.03 XG in that time when they're already 4-0 up, I think it was.
So irritating doing the yellow card. Like, you were predicting his points because you're doing the match of the day challenge, and I knew he'd come on and got a yellow, and I was like, well, that is... I mean, it's annoying being on the bench, and like Gabriel came off for that 1-pointer, but to come on and get a yellow, I was just like, oh my God.
Yes, yeah, not great. So for me, he's maybe not going to perform well off the bench. I thought he was going to be nailed on, but obviously Enciso is probably too good to stay benched, as he showed in that Wolves game. His stats are still decent for the first game and the second game, but yeah, for me, I think he's a sell, unfortunately. Matoma you can keep. He's averaged points per game of 8.5, 1 goal, 2 assists so far, very good. Goal of threat is perhaps slightly lacking, which is he only had 2 shots, but his assist stats look really good. 9 key passes, which is first of all mids, 2 big chances created, which is first as well. XA of 1.17, which is first. So yeah, he looks good value at 6.6 million. But he is 41% owned, so he's going to be a fancy troll for me too, because I'm not looking at bringing him in at the moment. So yeah, again, his EO against me is going to be pretty rough for the time being. And then March, as we talked about, huge differential, only 6.9% owned. 2 massive hauls in the first 2 games weeks, 24 points. He's the first most scoringest player in the FPL at the moment. Non-penalty XG of 1.81, which is first, which is massive. And the next closest is Mbeumo, who's on 1. 8 shots, which is first of all mids. 3 big chances, which is second. More of a goal threat than a chance creator this season. He's bursting into the box. And yeah, Kudos transfer is gone completely quiet. So he looks like he's still nailed on for now. And his ownership is probably going to just creep up probably slowly, I imagine. But if you've had him, then you're probably sitting well high in the ranks right now.
Do you think it's too late to get him? Do you think that double Brighton up in midfield is a bit mad? I mean, we talked about it at the start of the season with De Zerbi saying he wants 15 goals from each of them this season. The fixtures, I mean, that's obviously, like you say, the best attacking team in the league, but they've had 2 plum fixtures to start.
Yeah, I think game week 10 onwards is Fulham at home, Everton away, Sheffield United at home, Forest away. That's 4 amazing ones there. So yeah, from then onwards, you could look at that. For now, I don't think so. I think there's others that have such good fixtures that you can look at. But yeah, just lastly, Estepinian, man's on fire. 59% owned, which is crazy for a Brighton like defender. Amazing. But he's pretty much just a part of their attack. He's had 11 and 7 with no clean sheets and 2 yellow cards. So the new Trent ? I've got here. But yeah, 5 shots, which is first. Big chances of 1 first for the defenders. 8 key passes first. 3 big chances created, which is first. 1 goal, 2 assists. Yeah, like only March and Wissa could be beaten on him for BPS as well. So yeah, this guy is looking great. I think for me, I was looking at sort of rotating him with Udoji because I don't like their clean sheets. But at this point, I'm probably going to have to play him because his EO is going to be huge. I don't think anyone's really selling him right now. So he's probably a keep for any of the tough games. So yeah, hard to bet against him right now.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I was the same as you. I kind of thought all the Brighton defense, and I'm so lucky I didn't go steal over Estupiñán trying to think I could cover with clean sheet points because I would be in the mud right now. But no, you're right. I don't think there's any reason to bench him. He's just betting against his attacking returns. I am interested in the double up in midfield, I have to say. I think March is... I don't know. I don't mind him as a player, and he's definitely bumped his numbers up. So I think having Matona is enough at the moment because March is such low ownership. But yeah, you're right. From when their fixtures turn a little bit better, I've got no problem doubling up. I think our issue maybe at the start of this season was too much reliance on single teams, like having multiple attackers rather than just spreading it to see who's going to start the season well. And I don't think I want to go back to that, even though Brighton are doing so well. I don't want to go back to that ahead of more difficult fixtures. I'm much happy to... I think I prefer to spread the risk around. I'm even looking at getting a Liverpool player in for next game week because they've got a decent run. So whether that's Jota or Diaz, I just think then I'll have 5 different... Potentially want to have like 5 different players from 5 different teams in midfield, if that makes sense. So Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, Villa at home, Wolves away, West Ham. It's not that great though.
I don't know.
The run.
I just think they've been so. I mean, they haven't had good. Well, I suppose the Chelsea game and the Bournemouth game, they're sitting near the top again for XG after those two games. They've got one more game to assess against Newcastle, which is admittedly a tough game. But I just think that because their defense is not good, they need to attack. Right, should we just chat about maybe just briefly wrap up on Arsenal, and then perhaps we just show off our teams, because I think it was important just to do a bit of a comparison, and I looked at it for you if you like, for Saka, Odegaard against Martinelli. Saka 66% ownership, Odegaard 23, Martinelli 15. We obviously both own Martinelli. You've got the triple up of those three. I kind of thought that Martinelli would be close to able to cover Odegaard because he was more explosive, but the fact that Odegaard has potentially picked up penalties, or like 50% of penalties from Saka, is so huge for him at 6.5. So I think that's sort of like, and the X minutes argument comes into it. So I think for those that own Martinelli have got a 0.5 in the bank, I think Odegaard seems good. So looking at minutes, Saka's missed 2 minutes of their first 180, Odegaard's missed 1, Martinelli's missed 26. Shots in the box, Odegaard actually ties Martinelli, so it's 5 for Saka, 2 for Odegaard, 2 for Martinelli. Key passes, Saka up on top again with 5, Odegaard 2, Martinelli just has got 3. So, but then when you look at the expected goal involvement as a percentage, so that's the percentage of expected goal involvement during games played, we've got 37% for Saka, 36% for Odegaard, and 7% for Martinelli. So he's got a great fixture this week. And it's almost like he's going under the radar for, if he doesn't do well, he's going under the radar for underperforming. Like, I feel like I've been looking at the United players, but looking at the stats are like I know he returned in game week 1, but they're sort of on a par with Rashford and Fernandes. And at the moment, he's just been getting like a free pass because of what he did last year. But because Rashford and Bruno are slightly more expensive. But yeah, really, he's
selling him before Fulham feels so.
No, I wouldn't sell him before Fulham, but after that.
But you probably should though. Like, looking at those numbers, like especially in my midfield, maybe he should be the one to be sold rather than a Bruno or a Rashford this week.
Because then you're back to a double up rather than a 3-2. But I was surprised.
Maybe I should.
I was surprised looking at it, but it's the type of game, like you say,
it's good for him.
It's good for him, which is annoying, but. Yeah, it's definitely one to leave you to mull on. And I'll just wrap up on Gabriel on the Arsenal front, just because obviously benched again, gutting for anyone that's had him and hoping he came back, because he came in and blocked millions of people's first bench. But Arteta again has just said it's about the games we're expecting. When I was expecting how he wanted to defend, he was really good today. He absolutely dominated the box. I mean, he played for like 25 minutes.
He looked fired up. I don't know if you saw any of the reactions to some of the tackles he made. He was just like giving it all that, just like doing high fives to everyone after a massive tackle, just like celebrating like a goal almost. So yeah, he doesn't feel like he's sort of checked out or anything like that. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, if you've still got him, to be honest, at this point, I would just get rid because of that uncertainty. I think Henry at Brentford, Gusto could be a punt for Chelsea's fixtures, and Udogie could be good ones as well. Obviously, the sideways transfer to Salah is still on.
I think he'll start this weekend.
Yeah,
I genuinely think he'll start this weekend, and I think and Arteta has said they've no intention of selling him, and they said he's going to play a lot of games. It's just been tactical for the time being, and he's going to play a lot of games. So if Tomiyasu is out, which is yes he is, Zinchenko and stuff like that are coming back from fitness. Like he's, I think they should put Ben White back on the left, and then do Saliba and Gabriel plus probably Zinchenko. And then you're good to go. Like, why have they switched up from a sort of good and winning formula from last season? Makes no sense to me. But for me, he's starting this weekend. I wouldn't put money on it, but there you go. That's my take.
No, fair enough. We'll have to wait and see. But if he's benched again, people are going to be raging. But he's had so many transfers out this week. Right.
So you already sold him, didn't you?
Yeah,
yes,
I did. Yeah. Right, let's jump on and have a look at our teams. Do you want to go first this week?
Sure. Okay. So I have Flecken in goal at Crystal Palace at home. Then back three of Chilwell, Shaw, and Estepinian look good. First bench.
That looks like a nice backline, doesn't it? All 4 home fixtures this week.
Oh yeah, of course. There's talk. Udogie first bench, Bournemouth away is a tough admission, but I think Bournemouth away is a tougher fixture than any of these at home. So, first bench for him. At the moment, it's the same midfield five of Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka, Fernandes, and Rashford. One of them is probably going to be sold. I'd love to just make one transfer of Pedro to someone, but I can't because of money. Something needs to happen, and I don't know what. I would like to sell Shaw maybe for someone, but again, he doesn't give enough funds for anything useful. So, there's a decision to be made.
If the deadline's in 5 minutes, what are you doing? What's your initial instinct?
Well, initially I was thinking Rashford and Pedro to Jackson and Foden.
Right.
But I'll talk about Martinelli has made me think do I need a triple up? But it's a really good fixture.
Yeah.
And then again, it's selling Rashford before a really good fixture where I think they're going to change up the team and probably try and get more out of him, which they should have done already. They both feel like sort of bounce backy fixtures.
Yeah.
I could even burn a fixture here, a transfer. So but at the same time, it feels like there's really good fixtures for other people. And should I be that mad that I'm selling someone that because Rashford, Bruno after this obviously have Arsenal and Brighton, so tougher fixtures, but at the same time good for sort of attacking counter-attack play. So
you might find you'll never sell them. That's the thing. You look at them every week and think Arsenal are going to win, United should win, but I'm getting to the point even after 2 games where I don't, unlike last season, I don't think I need a double up on United, and maybe in your case you don't need a triple up on Arsenal, because unless they're winning 2 or 3 goals every week, then it's just not worth the money, and so far they're not doing it. But you're right, it might switch. It might switch soon.
It's impossible to tell. Generally, Martinelli and Rashford, I think, are the ones that are on the chopping block for me. Bruno could be, but then Rashford. Oh, I don't know. I wish I could give more of a obvious answer, but it's just the stats are there for most of them. The fixtures are there, so it's just usually if I wasn't looking at those amazing fixtures for other teams, I'd probably just leave it and just for one more week. But front two of Haaland, obviously, captain Sheffield United away, no brainer there. And then I do still have Pedro, so I could just bench him and play Udogie.
It's not bad.
But I kind of feel like Pedro was probably going to start this week. So, but at the same time, I'm thinking of moving him on to Jackson / Alvarez. Probably not Alvarez. I prefer Foden, as I said. So,
I feel like more questions than answers, to be honest.
It's a really hard one this week, unfortunately. Yeah.
All right, let's jump over and talk about my team as well, because I have similar questions, to be honest. I'll tell you my main thoughts. So I'll read it out anyway. So Johnson in goal, Brentford away. Same backline as you. Shaw, Stupinian, Chilwell. Midfield, Matoma, Rashford, Martinelli, Saka, Bruno. And I've got Watkins, Haaland up front, Armband on Harness. I've got Cole first sub. So initially, as soon as the game week wrapped up, my first thought I was going to get rid of Bruno and get Mbeumo in, and that was probably still my first choice transfer, just to move away from that double United. And Mbeumo's playing an out of position striker, so he's getting his more points, and I'm not losing too much with the penalties. So even though the price is a lot different, I feel like the potential upside is similar, if that makes sense.
Does seem like, as we discussed, you could wait a week though. You could both wait a week.
It could wait a week because so the downside obviously is that Palace are look like a good defensive side, as do Nottingham Forest. So making this transfer this week, it's not like there's maybe between the two of them, there's not going to be much ground made up. I can't imagine Mbeumo getting a double digit this week, and the same for Bruno. Sadly, I could see maybe an assist. They only won. They won 3-0 against Forest last year at home. Bruno didn't return at all, and he didn't return in the away game either. Rashford got a goal and assist. Anyway, so that was my initial thought early in the week was just to wait and see if anything appeared in the pressers, get rid of Bruno Mbeumo. The longer the week's gone on, I've been looking at Watkins' away games, and I like him because I think even though he's not played well, and he didn't do well in that Everton game when he really should have got a lot more points in a 4-0 win, but Diaby, obviously new signing who played well against Newcastle didn't get any return, so I'm thankfully got something. Just feel like at 8 million when Wissa's doing well, it's hard to bin him off. But I think the backup transfer, if I don't do Bruno to Mbeumo, is Watkins to Jackson, and try and take advantage of the
you
fixtures.
could roll still as well.
I could still roll. To be honest, I looked at rolling, and then next week doing Mbeumo and Diaz/Jota in for Bruno and Martinelli, and then I'd have like 5 different teams in midfield and 2 different strikers, which I quite liked as well, to be honest. So
I would be in between roll and do that next week / get Jackson for Watkins.
I think if
those would be my 2 options there.
Yeah, I don't.
What would you do? What would you do in my team?
Yeah,
Sorry to cut off yours.
I didn't like Pedro from the start, as you know, just because even though he did well in game week 1, like we didn't know he was a nailed on. And to be honest, I don't think we even know Matoma's nailed on. We could come in next week and De Zerbi's messed around again, and he's been benched. But
so it comes down to which mid to sell to get funds.
I think it does come down. I'm trying to move away from the double ups. So because at the moment they're not proving good value. So because you've got a triple up, that would probably seem the wiser one to move away from. But you don't want to. I don't think you'd want to do it before Fulham at home because of how crap they've been. So I'd almost use a transfer elsewhere and then do 2 next week, and just maybe play Udogie over Pedro.
Burn a transfer,
which seems mad. So I'm
going to take probably a couple of drops there as well. Rashford and Bruno, they're probably going to drop at least, if not before the start of the week.
They might rise again next week if they do well.
I don't know.
No, I don't know either. I'm really stumped on this week. I think if I do anything at all, it's going to be Fernandes to Mbeumo. I think if I do anything, I think I'm less likely to do Jackson.
I don't know.
Less likely to do Jackson. Also, if Ollie Watkins gets injured tonight, or I'm reading that he has a shocker, then obviously that changes my decision somewhat.
Fair. The risk averse, Chris.
Yeah.
No spicy transfers.
No spicy transfers. No. I mean, Jackson's in my second place. I feel like if I don't go for Jackson this week, I'm not getting him at all.
Yeah. The Luton is the juicer, isn't it?
The juicier game.
The banker.
Yeah. Because Nottingham Forest, who are playing next week, I think is going to be tougher. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. But Mbeumo's probably first place, Jackson second. We'll see what happens after this Watkins, the Villa game tonight. Because if Watkins scores some goals, I'm going to keep him, obviously, because my brain will think he's in form. And I don't know. We've got the Friday presses to get through as well.
Fair. All right.
I don't think we've answered anything there, have we?
No, we haven't. We've
created more questions for ourselves, and we look more stressed than we were about an hour ago.
Oh, it's just impossible one. It's selling people before good fixtures. Always backfires, but what can you do?
I know. Right, all right. Let's call it there because we've just nearly ticked in at an hour. We'll just say thanks to everyone for joining us, and messages and chat. It's been fantastic to see them all. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them, but we'll see you this time next week for another show, and we'll see where we are. So have happy faces or not.
Yep. Right. Hopefully, better than this week.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone.